that first speech was polemical, particularly because all Abrahamic religions have a loving God. And philosophically, there's this moment where you can't have love if it's a control thing. A baby has to be able to say no to mom. A teenager has to walk out of the church, the synagogue, the mosque. Otherwise, even when we know it's a wrong decision, freedom's involved. And I just saw a lot of determinism, also biological determinism. That scares me. I work in jail. It's a growth industry. I work in inner city colleges. The image is that these people are stupid and they're going to be there forever. Now, what does that have to do with the freedom of Exodus, the power of Allah, the mercy of Jesus? I missed your rationale behind saying this stuff.
Thank you. The second part of your question, this is a comment that I often get, that determinism is troubling because of its troubling consequences. But the fact that determinism has, and it certainly has, troubling consequences doesn't mean that it is either true or untrue. This is not an argument against determinism. It's merely the consequences of determinism. But I completely agree that if we accept the argument that we don't have choice, that we are not morally responsible persons, this argument has vast implications within the context of criminal law, morality more generally, law more generally, and so on. Yet this is not an argument against determinism. It merely means that many people are reluctant to accept this argument as true because we don't want to face the consequences. And I didn't quite understand the first comment or the first question that you asked. Sorry.
Could determinism be one of those areas where we have to try to empathize with both sides? But I think, would you like to come up? So
just maybe a quick comment before you ask your question. You can.
You could come, but you can finish your thought.
You talked about your experience working with prisoners. Determinism doesn't imply that people can't change. Determinism doesn't mean that you are what you are and you lack the ability of change. All it means that some people do have the ability and the will to change, whereas others do not. This is because they don't have a choice. They are either people who have the ability and the willingness to change, or they are not. It's for us to try to find the people who can change and to try to help them change. We may fail in doing so because these people didn't or don't have the ability to change their ways for various reasons.
Hi, my name is Susan, and I belong to the community of living traditions at Stony Point Center. And that is an intentional community of Jews, Muslims, and Christians who have been living together for 8 years doing peace and social justice work. We've sent 5 delegations to Ferguson, Missouri. We have a delegation right now on the ground in Standing Rock, and we're talking about Muslims, Jews, and Christians together, driving in the car, showing solidarity. And what we do and have done over the past 8 years since the community started was decide that, yes, we're not going to agree to everything, but we do agree to 2 founding principles of universal human rights and nonviolence. And though we may not agree on, for example, the status of Palestine or what have you, when we have a discussion and then we wake up the next day to continue the discussion, what we've come to agree upon, and we have transformed and we have evolved over 8 years, this is a mature community, is that we need to decolonize our faith. So when we look at, for example, Saudi Arabia, I as a Muslim detest Saudi Arabia. I think Saudi Arabia is evil. I think Saudi Arabia does not have a right to deny other religions to go to Mecca and Medina, and that is not in the Quran, by the way. Okay, just by the same token, Jerusalem is the universal capital for all faiths. So how we look at it, how we allow ourselves to be transformed and changed is in fact a leap of faith, and as we would say at our community, reclaiming our faith. And the core of our faiths are nonviolence and loving each other.
Thank you for that. I've heard of that community, and it sounds really wonderful. I think the difference that I want to draw, it sounds like what you're doing is real work, where you're identifying difference and holding those differences and continuing those conversations and growing from them, and I think that's the ideal. I want to suggest that in the realm of politics and power, that these kinds of conversations can also occur among people who have the authority and credibility and legitimacy to resolve disputes. So I think these kinds of discussions have to happen at every level, at citizen level, at interfaith level. But I'm also curious, and I've seen it happen, so I want to see these kinds of conversations happen among religious leaders who have the capacity to integrate their conversations and the innovations they can create into the political discussion in a peace process.
I was going to ask about change because until now, you didn't touch the change thing, which is, I think, really important, because if we can change our conscience, then the whole argument goes away. Because then we have choice. I was wondering, how is your view of born or inherent conscience goes with Foucault's relational, it's deterministic in my opinion the same way as yours, but from the other side. So that's one thing, and why either or, okay? Why not? It's saying either there is no way to change conscience or not. Why not? I think there's a mixture here, like here, holding the two together, meaning that you are, and it is my belief that our conscience is structured through our relationship. We are not born with it, in my opinion. And if relationships are evolving and changing all the time through our social context, then it is changing, okay? So somewhat we have autonomy, and somewhat we don't have autonomy because the power relationships are so strong that they determine to a certain degree how we are. So I think it's an interplay, and the emphasis is changing over our lifespan.
Yeah. My view of determinism does not deny the possibility of change. And I completely agree that our conscience can develop, can change, can alter completely. Yet it doesn't imply that we have a choice at all. Because of two reasons. First, we are either persons who have the ability and willingness to reevaluate our view, reevaluate our conscience, willing to re-examine our beliefs and perhaps to change them, or we are not. Some of us are stubborn, and they will not change their views, conscience, or beliefs no matter what. Why? Because this is who they are. Others are more open to new ideas, are more willing to evaluate their views. Why? Because of who they are, and they did not choose to be who they are. Secondly, our conscience may change or develop following different relationships, changing circumstances and so on. But our response to these external circumstances is dictated because of who we are. And I think that some psychologists suggest that we are whole persons by the time we are 2 or 3 years old. Others suggest that we are whole persons by the time we are 5 or 6. Either way, we are who we are before we can even reason our decisions, before we can explain to ourselves why we're acting in a certain way. And then we become adults, which is merely an adult version of who we are. And if we change, it's only because we have the ability to change. But what made us a person who can change or is willing to change?
Just one response to it. As a psychologist, I can tell you that there are psychologists who claim that we keep developing until we die. So that changes the whole map, but we'll discuss it.
And ultimately, we might be able to learn to hold two views or understand two views at the same time. Could I squeeze in just one more? And then we'll be a little hungry, but we'll, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for this opportunity. I'm looking at a situation where Madam said we have unresolvable situations. For example, the Palestine issue. We are talking about the change. But again, I have in mind that we have what you call unity in diversity. Since morning, we've been looking at the Three Amigos, where Dr. Mackenzie has not yet turned into an imam, yet the imam has not yet turned into Dr. Rab. Everybody is still who he is, but they are united. Can't we take this picture to take it into the further world, such that it can explain what others need to do, not only here, but also in the world where the conflicts are still unresolvable, such that we can get a true meaning of who we are supposed to be, such that we live peacefully with others. I think this is my point. Thank you so much.
Do you want me to respond? I think it's a very beautiful picture of unity within diversity. And I think we can attain that in situations of security and prosperity. And I think when we have hot conflict, we have to think about what will it take to enable the unity within diversity. Okay, and so what I'm suggesting is, what I've seen is when people have enough unity, right? You need enough unity to be willing to sit together with other people who are representatives of the people who are in conflict and go into the heart of the actual irreconcilable differences. That you tap into what the people in the abortion talks described as sacred energy. And from tapping into that sacredness, something changes in the way of developing ideas and possibilities about how to address the conflict.
Thank you very much.